it's interesting with Crenshaw. I mean, let me tell you something. This says a lot about this version of the Republican Party when Dan Crenshaw isn't Republican enough to win a Republican primary.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the Crenshaw of it all because I remember how Crenshaw was part of these right wing stalwarts and conspiracy theories, Islamophobe. He attacked me on social media. They used to love him, and then he just shifted a bit away from Donald Trump, and he hated them. So we'll talk about Crenshaw. But first, the big news is Wasserman called it, and he called it for Talarico, and now we have Democrats congratulating Talarico, but we have Jasmine Crockett saying, "Hey, not yet," because Ken Paxton and Republicans have engaged in some effery. I cannot swear. It's Ramadan and fasting, plus I'm surrounded by kids.
They fucked with the primary.
They really did. They really did. And the fact that the Supreme Court went against a judge. Not only did they say close it, don't extend the voting to 9 p.m., but throw out any votes that you got from 7 p.m. onward. But still, what I was asking Mike, Kurt, right before you joined, and Kurt, by the way, is in Texas. He's at the Talarico headquarters. Was that, is there enough, right? Suppose Crockett gets the votes. Is there enough to overcome Talarico's win? And Mike, what are you looking at the numbers right now?
I'm looking at the numbers. It just doesn't seem that there's a mathematical way where there's enough Crockett margin in Dallas to get the number that she needs. She wasn't getting enough out of Harris County, her own county. She needed bigger margins there. It's a much more diverse county, many more black voters than you're going to get in the Dallas Fort Worth area. It's not there. The math isn't mathing for her.
What do you see, Kurt? You moved to Dallas. You're in Texas right now. You've been going around. You're at the Talarico headquarters. What's the vibe like? And what's your read on this?
I mean, again, a couple things are true at the same time. One, first and foremost, Ken Paxton and the Republicans deliberately have fought with the Democratic primary here. It is by design. I can tell you personally, mid-February, my wife logs into the Secretary of State's website to see where is her voting location. It's a dead end. Doesn't tell her. She keeps checking. 3 days ago, she logs in to find out where should I be voting. Deadline. Doesn't tell her. Like, that is by design. That is deliberate. That's number one. Number two, when you looked at the early returns when they came in, it was abundantly clear that Crockett did not have the margins, the lead that she would need to withstand what was going to happen throughout the night, to withstand the tremendous gains that Talarico gained with the Latino community. All over up I-35 here, winning in the white suburb areas like Denton, not far from Dallas. The coalition of voters that Talarico has put together exceeds whatever ends up happening in Dallas, or what could have happened in Dallas. She wasn't going to have enough votes to win. I think as a campaign guy, I'm going to tell you something. It is campaign malfeasance to not pay attention to the district, the area that is the biggest concentration of votes that you need to win, to not know that back in February, your voters could figure out where to vote. How, if you are running a campaign, do you not know that? That's objective number one. Quit worrying about the national media. Quit worrying about the Atlanta Reporter that you threw out of your event and then lied about it. Quit worrying about whether Talarico is on Colbert or not. Mission one in any campaign is getting your core vote out. And if they don't know where to vote, that's a fucking problem, man.
And I appreciate the fact that you led with the fact that Ken Paxton has egregiously, intentionally effed with the Democratic primaries, where so many Democrats went to their polling station and said, sorry, didn't you get the notice of the rule change at the beginning of the year? Hundreds of voters lost, right? So this is a sneak preview, folks, of what Republicans will be doing in places where there's Republican governors, Republican attorney generals, Republican state Senate people. They will be doing everything to F the vote to help Donald Trump, who's disastrously underwater. But secondly, you also saw Talarico surge, Mike, and you said something that that you and I have been talking about since the summer. You said that the gerrymander will turn into a dummymander. We'll talk about Crenshaw, but you said the Latino vote is going to be a big part of the outcome here. It's a big moment. Change is hard, but it's here. Latinos are challenging black and white power structures. That threatens a lot of people. It shouldn't. It's the shoots through pluralism emerging. Expand on that statement that you just tweeted out 2 hours ago.
So look, there was a lot of pushback and claims of racism and misogyny when Latino voters in 2024 shifted to the right and voted for Donald Trump. There's a lot of really horrible ethnic tropes coming out. How this is a Latino culture is naturally machismo, naturally racist. These are the same voices that were saying this, didn't say anything for the previous 40 years when Latinos were voting 80% for the Democratic Party. And then suddenly these voters disagree with them and are making a plea for help as desperate poor working class voters getting no relief with no agenda, rejecting Biden and Harris. And then suddenly now you're racist and misogynist. I mean, look, now they're coming back. Nobody calls them racist and misogynist when they're in Miami rejecting Latino male Cuban Republican candidate for white progressive women. But they'll do it when it's, Jasmine Crockett or Kamala Harris. And again, remember, Latinos made Kamala Harris in California. They've been voting for her for 25 years. But once things go bad and they reject her, people get upset about that and start using these ethnic slurs. So, look, we have a way, unfortunately, of practicing politics in this country that is less about economic class and more about race and racial identity because it divides us. That's to stop at some point. And that's one thing I'm really proud of Latinos, not that they voted for Republicans, but that are not beholden to one party. It's the least racially polarized, least partisan group in America that is voting like they're flat. They're rejecting whichever party is failing on affordability, cost of living, and the ability to rise economically and provide for their families. That's the way the system is supposed to work.
Right.
It's everybody else that's so hyper partisanized that has created this calcification, this anger in the country that is tearing ourselves apart.
Mike's really right about that. And I'll tell you, one of the failures, the institutional failures of Democratic Party messaging is this fantasy that one size fits all. That if I'm trying to talk to the Black community, that should also appease the Hispanic community or the Asian American community. The needs of one culture and community are different than the other. Democrats seem to have a blind spot there. They not seem to figure out that the Rubik's Cube of their own making. And what Mike's right too is, but if you have a message that speaks to affordability, that addresses the economy, that addresses the economic gaps that exist with minority communities and everybody else, that is universal, because all of us feel that gap. All of us understand that the Republican Party is the party of the billionaire class, and that the hell of the rest of us, right? And I think my frustration, having now gone from Republican to Democrat in my professional career, and having been able to watch up close the machinations of how these parties function, the complete lack of awareness and blind spot of the Democratic Party apparatus and establishment when it comes to trying to quote message to the Latino community. Like, first of all, when you look around those strategy rooms, not a whole lot of Latinos at the table. That's problem number one, perhaps. Number two, again, they are trying to tell and instruct us, and I include us as all of us who are here right now on this live stream, about how we should think, how we should talk. They're trying to tell us this is what message would work. Go out and go do that like a good soldier. And it's just nonsensical. It is farcical. It is insulting. And that's why there have been these gains by Republicans in the last election at the expense of Democratic constituencies. Now, they have seen in practice and application the bill of goods that Republicans were selling isn't making their life any better either. So now they're going back the other way in this election cycle. But make no mistake, let's Democrats figure out how to talk to everybody here and not apply this one-size-fits-all bullshit. Like we're not going to have a lock on any core constituency. It's going to keep fluctuating.
Kurt, can you put it on mute when you're not talking, only because it's really loud? And then you can hear us, I think. You can hear us? Okay, great. As long as you can hear us. Mike, awesome. That's much better. Mike, you and I have been talking about this since the summer, that Latinos are actually a very good bellwether, because Latinos in 2016 liked Bernie. They didn't like the establishment. They didn't like the institution. They were willing to go for Bernie over the status quo. And then In 2020, they said, okay, we'll just do what all the other Americans are doing because this mother effort was so bad. And then in 2024, they're like, all right, those policies failed. Donald Trump is coming back. This is terrible for inflation was bad. I can't afford stuff. Let me go back. And then many of them are shifting back. There is an inherent distrust against the institutions. It's not like the Democrats have won them over as much as it is that they are disgusted with what they're seeing, and they are disgusted by MAGA, which explains why Cuban voters in Florida friggin' have gone for a white woman, non-Latino, a Democrat, and which is why I think it's an important point that in Texas you were saying these Latinos who are voting against Republicans, it's not like they're Democrats. They're just like, we hate this guy. And so the worst thing could be is that Democrats don't win them over and do what Kurt was saying is just say, oh, yeah, we're Democrats. That other guy's racist. We're not Trump. All right, now you're voting for us. Let's just abandon you. I'm very curious now that it's going to be most likely. I'm glad, let Crockett. We should get an investigation into this. Why did Ken Paxton meddle? Why did the Supreme Court meddle? All these Democrats who stood in line, right? I think this deserves an investigation. But it seems so far that Tallarico has the votes. However, Tallarico still has an uphill battle. This is Texas. They're saying Tallarico needs to win like +6 in order to beat Paxton. For the Republicans, it's a runoff between Cornyn and Paxton. It's really close, but suppose it's Paxton. Do you think Tallarico can do it, Mike, with a +6 that he needs to somehow? This needs to be like an epic turnaround in Texas. Is it possible with what you're seeing?
Short answer is yes, absolutely. And let me qualify that by saying I've been asked this question every election cycle in Texas that they've had over the past 12 years, and I've said emphatically no because of the demographic change. So why am I now saying that this is possible? The answer is manyfold, but let me explain why. And I'm not saying it's a certainty, but I'm saying it's absolutely possible. Here's why. Beto O'Rourke lost to Ted Cruz by 3 points. Paxton's negatives are going to be worse than Ted Cruz's. Okay.
Yeah, he is not it's so many scandals.
No. So I mean, it's just he's if you can imagine, he's worse than Ted Cruz. He's worse than Ted Cruz. But here's the thing: in 2018, Beto O'Rourke was running with a very good, strong economy with Donald Trump. The economy is bad and getting worse.
That's right.
Donald Trump's approval ratings are far worse. So worst candidate. Latino voters are coming back. Remember, this incremental rightward shift was already beginning in the early Trump years. You have the economy getting worse. By the way, I don't know if anybody knows this or not. We just attacked Ecuador in the last hour.
Yep.
We're attacking Ecuador. Okay? So our foreign policies...
Yes. New York Times just broke that Ecuador and the Trump administration have started strikes against drug cartels. So add that to an 8th country that's been involved in 1 year.
So our foreign policy is a complete disaster. The economy is getting worse. You've got a candidate worse than Ted Cruz, and you're going to have an enormous Democratic turnout, which is going to be higher than 2018. Is that worth not 3 points, 1.5 points? Why am I saying 1.5 points? Because elections are two-way swings. For every vote that comes off and goes the other way, one person take one vote out of one column and it goes to the others. That's a 2-vote swing is what we call it. So you don't even win by 3 points. You need a 1.5 vote swing. Is that possible over 2018? Of course it's possible. I would argue that it's probably likely. So the reason...
Paxton or Cornyn?
I think it's going to be Paxton. I mean, look, what did surprise me was that Cornyn was doing so well in Tarrant County in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The country club Republicans were fighting back is what I put out on social media. It's like this last vestiges of the country club Republicans that are very, prominent and present in Texas, but they're nowhere near, big enough to win races, even for an incumbent Republican senator. There's just not enough. The math doesn't math there either. So look, I do believe that. And by the way, this third candidate, Hunt, if he's getting 13%, and that's an interesting number, by the way. 13% is the same number Nikki Haley was getting consistently, right? So the question is that an anti-Trump vote, or is it a voter that Cornyn simply hasn't been able to close the deal on and convince them to vote for him after 6 years? Either way, it's not good for the Republican Party. It's just not a good look.
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say, so that all of that points to me to Paxton winning this, and I think you're going to see a Paxton Tallarico race in an extraordinarily favorable environment for the Democrats. The question is, in a red state, when they control all the levers of power, all the county governments, Secretary of State, can they meddle with the elections enough to do what they're doing to the Democrats in Dallas right now?
Let me do two quick aside points and go back to Kurt because it is connected. A lot of people are expressing shock. My bad, because Mike and I saw the news. Even Kurt didn't see it. That over an hour ago, the New York Times announced it's a brief article that the United States has opened military action in Ecuador against terrorist organizations. The joint activity with Ecuador appeared to be a major expansion of U.S. strikes against boats that the Trump administration has accused of carrying drugs. I put that in quotes because, as you know, there has been no evidence released that the numerous strikes that have killed over 100 people, Venezuelans, mostly fishermen and civilians, were drug dealers. As we know, the video that Pete Kexet refused to release, we know that there were two people holding on for dear life, literally an act of a war crime. And then Kexet said, kill him. So apparently, Donald Trump has said that we're at war and he has the power to unilaterally kill these terrorists, even though there's no due process and no evidence that has been released. More than 100 people have died off the shores, Venezuelan drug dealers, mostly fishermen. And now that same logic, folks, has been used to expand this theater of war into Ecuador. If you're counting, let me just count top of my head. Ecuador, Venezuela, Iran, Nigeria, helping, I'll say Gaza, because without U.S. weapons and mobs, Gaza can't happen. That's 5. I know there's about 8. What am I missing, Kurt? My brain. He's about to expand to Cuba, the trade wars, threatening Greenland. This is, and he also wants, by the way, folks, Iran, he bombed Iran earlier. So he wants, if you will,
Obviously not have a Nobel Peace Prize by now.
yeah, he wants that FIFA Peace Prize. And as this is happening, folks, what Mike is saying is that things are only going to get worse. Iran is an effing mess. He's negative double digits on foreign policy, negative double digits on immigration, negative double digits on the economy. There's going to be more and more scandals. Chrissy Noem got her ass handed to her. We'll talk about that later. So things are going to get worse for the Republicans moving forward. Ken Paxton has so many scandals behind him. It is possible that Tallarico pulls it off, and there's going to be massive voter suppression. Kurt is in Dallas. He was telling us, for those who joined us late, that his wife found it nearly impossible to go vote today, and hundreds of Democratic voters were turned away, which is why Jasmine Crockett is rightfully pissed off. Kurt, I have to ask about the Dan Crenshaw of it all. Explain the Dan Crenshaw loss and why it matters and shows where MAGA is right now.
Again, Dan Crenshaw at one point was one of the most MAGA congressmen that you were going to find. Right up there with Lowen Bobart, Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's not lost on me that in a very short window of time, that MAGA coalition has lost Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's not MAGA enough anymore, right? Dan Crenshaw just lost a primary. This is the guy who served the United States military, by the way. Not MAGA enough. The Trump's Republican Party lost his primary to now. The party is going even further to the right. It seemed like, is there much ground left to go to the right? Apparently that there is.
They're not Nazi yet. They're almost Nazi, Kurt.
The fact that John Cornyn, again, who is about as Republican as you could possibly get, a Republican institution all to himself in the United States Senate as well as here in Texas, the fact that he's in a runoff situation because of his own party, unfathomable a decade ago that someone like that with his credentials, when they agree or disagree with him, put that over here, but just his Republican credentials and bona fides are beyond dispute. And yet he's headed towards what's going to be a bloody, bruising, financially draining runoff situation. I guarantee you, every Republican senator right now, tomorrow, is going to be calling the White House saying, can you get the big guy to endorse Cornyn and put this to bed? Because the perfect storm nightmare for Republicans is a drawn-out runoff situation for the next 3 months where they spend tens of millions more dollars beating the crap out of each other, exposing the flaws that they have, so that the Democrat, who will likely, in my opinion, be James Tallarico, gets to spend the next 3 months with not a single Republican laying a glove on him, raising gobs of money, generating enthusiasm, doing voter contact, trying to expand the Democratic Party reach. And then by the time whoever limps out of the runoff gets there, they're such damaged goods. They're so toxic. Every Republican ad that has run against either Paxton or Cornyn
from here on out is basically an ad for James Tallarico. I mean, that is the perfect storm and the perfect nightmare for Republicans.
You're on mute.
Thank you, Mike. Here's another thing about a nightmare, right? Because these are some nightmare candidates with immense baggage. And speaking about a nightmare candidate with an immense baggage, I think you know where I'm going with this. Texas 23rd Congressional District primary right now has been called, but Tony Gonzalez is leading Brandon Herrera in the Republican primary. Tony Gonzalez is the man who's plagued in a sex scandal where he had an affair, and the woman that he had an affair with self-immolated herself. She killed herself via suicide through self-immolation. This man who was, Bible thumping, hardcore MAGA, and he's kind of just brushed it off. I don't think that story is going to go away. It's horrific. Right now, that guy, Mike, let's see what happens. But he's beating Brandon Herrera by 3 points. If Gonzalez holds on to the win, what will that do to the Republican brand? And what does that say about the Republican Party? This is Texas 23rd primary, folks.
Well, I mean, it says everything you need to know about the Republican Party currently, and I hate to just speak in purely crass political terms, but that's part of the job here. I mean, that opens that seat. It makes it incredibly vulnerable. I mean, if the Republicans replaced him, then, they could just, sweep it under the rug, move on, and no one never mention his name again. If he's going to be the standard bearer heading into November in a tough environment in these districts that are swinging, the Democrats need to look there and play there and look for a pickup because they're probably going to get it. I mean, the negatives and the narrative of this story are so bad. You have to add up all of the candidates that are running against him. It's not just one candidate who's coming in the close second. There's a number of other candidates in there as well. You add all of those up, it's more than he's getting. So incredibly weak candidate, incredibly bad branding, incredibly horrible story. Have some shame. Leave for your own children. He's got children. She's got children. It's just such a bad story. But in crass political terms, it's absolutely one that Democrats have a very good chance of picking up in November.
And speaking about Democrats, I don't know if you all saw this. I like the guy, and if this is how he's going out, respect. Al Green, respect, understood the assignment at both State of the Unions. Last year, he was the one, took his cane, yelled at Donald Trump as he was lying about Medicaid and Social Security. They kicked him out. Democrats, who were pathetic, should have followed him out, didn't, just sat there like losers, somnambulists, mummies with their stupid paddles. And then a few of them joined Republicans in censuring Al Green. This year, Al Green stood there and said, Black people aren't apes. What happened? They kicked him out again. Nobody joined them. Nobody really stood up for him. But that Al Green, folks, it seems pretty clear he's losing in his primary to Christian Menifee. It seems like it's pretty much nearly done. 5-point lead, 70% of votes. And Christian Menifee is a former Harris County attorney who served in the House since February. He's running against Representative Al Green. This was a district that was heavily redrawn, so Al Green has his back against the wall. Kurt, any thoughts on Menifee and what he represents?
Yeah, I think this is less about Green and more about how the districts were redrawn.
Yep.
I mean, this is kind of what happens when you lose the heart of what was your district. You're dealing with a completely different constituency. And let's be honest here, most people don't pay attention to who the congressman is, but then most people don't care. And that's a really tough uphill thing to do when you get drawn into a new district and you have a really short window to try to make that change. Because the districts were just redrawn. They've only had a few months to even try to, get in front of your new voters, your new would-be constituencies. Add that to there's an appetite in the Democratic Party for generational change.
Yeah.
Al Green's in the 70s. And that's not saying anything good or bad about him, but it's just the fact we are seeing this trend in Democrat primaries of young overtaking the old. That's what I think it has more about than anything personally against Al Green. I don't think that any Democrat voter, if they really knew the things that Green has stood for and the way that he has fought this fight, I don't think they find anything objectionable about him at all.
No.
I think in his district, the new district, I don't think they know who he is. I think that they know who their congressman is that they've been voting for already, and the guy who's already there serving. Sometimes it's that simple, and with a very, very short runway to get that name ID up in your new district because they were just drawn. We have an early primary. Some states, they have a primary in June. You get like half the year to campaign in a primary. We don't have that luxury here in Texas. Like it's one of the first primaries in the country. And so that's really tough.
It seems just unfair to the redistricting. He's barely going to lose, it seems, to Menifee. Al Green's been a fantastic representative, really bold, especially the past year, used his pulpit, used his power. He is in his 70s. As Kurt is saying, there was that, I think, Mike, you and I talked about that New York Times focus group that was done a couple of weeks ago that was really telling, where 13 people, very diverse, nearly all of them, except an elderly black man who's part of the focus group, said they wanted someone younger. The elderly black man said, you know what, I'm fine, but I still like some experience. But everyone else wanted someone younger. What was also really interesting, all 13 of them said if you had a choice between a moderate and progressive, all of them went progressive. However, there is an outlier here, and I'm going to North Carolina. But this guy is just a good politician. And I think this is a chance for a major upset and finally for an opportunity to flip the North Carolina Senate. Roy Cooper has won. He's going to be facing off, it seems like, he's going to be facing off against Michael Watley. This represents an opportunity. I think Cooper can do it. Your take, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a year, and it's beyond a year of change. It's kind of a there's going to be a lot of big differences from this election cycle from what we've seen in the past. I think there's going to be a lot of surprises. Look at Texas right now. You're looking at, I think, 3 current incumbents losing. Right, you've got Green is going to lose, like you just mentioned. Gonzalez is still a possibility of losing. Who was the third candidate in there? That's Crenshaw. Crenshaw's gone, and it's both sides of the aisle. It's happening everywhere. And to your point, it's kind of this Latino is the most obvious example of just rejecting the system overall. It's not like just a throw incumbent mood that we're witnessing right now, Waj. It's kind of a throw the whole system out. And whether it's younger people or whether it's more working class people, if it's more populist moment, whether it's a rejection of the party systems, people just don't see the system working anymore. And it's not just a kind of a cranky, when I was a young guy doing races in the early 90s and it was like kind of throw the bums out kind of a mood. It's way, way, way beyond that. There's just a loss of confidence in either party's even attempt to resolve our problems. And I think we're going to be in for a lot of big surprises this year.
And, Mike and I have been talking this for a while. It's not the only voters, but we said, don't underestimate the Latinos because out of all the minority voters, the biggest minority vote is the Latino voters. We're talking about Texas. We're talking about, Mike, you called it the Republican gerrymander. You said it several months ago could threaten to be a dummy mander. And what we've seen, it seems like it's a dummy mander. It's going to hurt these Republicans because they thought, we got the Latinos. They made the same mistake the Democrats did. We got the Latinos. We don't have to cater to them. We got the blacks. We got the Asians. You're going to vote for us anyway. We're not Donald Trump. Shut your mouth and vote. And the Republicans thought that was going to happen. The Latinos like, nope.
Yeah.
And seems like that's going to be a dummy mander. But again, a warning for Democrats. These Latinos, if you listen to them, if you look at the votes, they haven't been convinced by the Democrats. They haven't all gone to the Democratic Party. They just hate the Republicans. So you have to really win these people over. And we're going to see Latinos, independents, and also young people. Those are the 3 groups that have turned the most against Donald Trump. And things are going to get worse and worse and worse, especially with Iran, especially with the economy, especially with immigration. Now, speaking about, I think, Kurt, I wanted to bring you in here. This is going to be a fascinating Democratic, I think, sneak preview. I've been saying this for a while. People think, Waj, you're crazy. I don't know if you saw, 2 things. Number one, Mike, I don't know if you saw today, abolish ICE. Historic 50% of Americans want to abolish ICE. YouGov poll just came out today. As predicted, that number's going up 50%, folks, want to abolish ICE. That number went up from, 30s, 40s to 50%. Now, AIPAC, another thing I've been warning about. I said, folks, you cannot ignore the genocide in Gaza. Folks, you cannot ignore the disastrous toxicity of being attached to AIPAC. Democratic leadership said, shut up. Shut your mouth. We don't care. What we found out with this race, and I don't know if you've seen the latest numbers, this is a nail biter. All of this is coming to a head in the North Carolina 4th district. There is a primary race, folks. 95% of the votes are in. Fushi, who's an incumbent, Valerie Fushi, a black woman, she's head-to-head now with Nida Alam, a Muslim American woman, hijab, a progressive. 1%, folks. Fushi's at 49.2%. Nida Alam's at 48.2%. off by 1,000 votes, 5% votes left in. Super tight. What we found out a few days ago is that Hakeem Jeffries funneled money he got from AIPAC to some anodyne, vanilla sounding super PACs and basically laundered that money to Fushi to push her over the hump. Fushi, seeing how everything's changing, then said a couple of weeks ago, I'm not taking money from AIPAC. Investigative reporters said, okay, she's not taking money from AIPAC, but Hakeem Jeffries has funneled AIPAC money into this race, and now it's a 1% slim margin, Kurt. Listen, if she wins, I don't think she wins, if you know what I'm saying. If she loses, AIPAC F's itself again. And this is happening in the backdrop where AIPAC is celebrating Donald Trump joining Israel's war with Iran. Break it down for me, Kurt.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We're about to get to a point where a Democrat primary, certainly, did you take AIPAC money becomes a bad thing, becomes a net negative, not worth cashing that check for what it's going to cost you with the voters. And particularly as it has kind of come out in the very convoluted, contradictory nonsense that Trump and his warmongering Confederates are espousing every day right now. It certainly looks like really why what just happened with Iran and the attacks and the war that started is that we were doing Israel's early Jordan. That the superpower that is the United States of America, I guess, were somehow cajoled into having to do this because Israel said they were going to do it. And despite the fact that we give them unlimited financial resources, weapons, military support, you name that, we didn't have the power to somehow stop them from doing it. So we just went along with it. Not going to play well with the American people in general. Not going to play well with the Democratic Party. Not going to play well.
What Kurt, I was saying, it's already failed. Little Marco, I know you've been busy all day, but Little Marco humiliated himself again. And he backtracked it, and then the reporter who said, "Who told you that?"
Who told you that? I didn't say that.
I'm the one who asked you the question yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like the typical motto, right? It's the gaslighting. It's don't believe your eyes and ears. Don't believe what you heard come out of my mouth 24 hours ago from you who asked the question. Today, I'm going to pretend like it didn't happen. Like it's crazy for even bringing that up. How dare you quote me to me? Is the refrain that we saw from Marco today, acting like this is somehow an invented media conspiracy, when in actuality, these guys, the truth is, have no answer. That's a good, usual, actionable reason to go into war. They're just making shit up every time someone asks them. They contradict themselves literally with every other breath, when the reality is clearly, again, Donald Trump is just being his bitch here and doing the work falls.
And this is something, Mike, you, me, and Kurt, well, you're younger than me and Kurt, but we've been in this a long time. I have the gray hair. I never thought, speaking about poll numbers, I never thought I'd see. I never thought I'd see in my lifetime 50% of Americans say abolish ICE. That came out today. Last week, Gallup poll, for the first time, Americans are more sympathetic to Palestinians than Israelis.
Yeah.
And I never thought Israel would be a partisan issue. Israel, with its genocidal leadership, made it into a partisan issue. AIPAC, with its bullying, made it into a partisan issue. The genocide in Gaza was made into a partisan issue. And now you're even seeing something that you never thought you would see, you and Kurt ever thought you would see in the Republican Party. There is a massive shift where you got Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene all coming out and saying, what the F, man? Why are we dying for Israel? And then after Little Marco made his comments yesterday, I never thought I would see even any elected official, let alone Republican or Democrat, literally openly say what Kurt was just saying is like, so we're essentially dying for Israel. I don't know if you saw, but Joaquin Castro essentially said that. Ruben Gallego said that. That to me is something huge. Talk to us about the AIPAC of it all and this race here between Fushi and Alam.
I have never seen a turn of public opinion like this either, especially on something so foundational. If you had ever told me that sometime during my career that you would see a change between Israel and Palestine like that, I would be like that. I just don't see how that could ever be possible. But this is all self-owned. Like I said, there's no explanation around it. This is all conscious from their actions, deliberate, making, I don't want to say making the case, but just the belligerence through which they're trying to pursue foreign policy that doesn't make any sense. And the American people are seeing it, and they're seeing through it. And you have to question it. There's no choice but to question it and say, what is actually happening here? I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, went on this amazing rant on one of the talk shows this morning saying, wake up, guys. Look what's happening here. It's so obvious what is happening. It's not even debatable. And you're starting to see the right-wing media, infrastructure getting passionately pissed off about it because they know that they were played. They know that they were used. There's no excuses. It's indefensible. It's indefensible. There's no plan. There's no strategy. Like, how was any of this in our national interest? And now you've got to be asking, it's all the other fiasco, all this other stuff lighting the rest of the world on fire, a distraction to the distractions. Like, is this just, are we barreling down this apocalyptic road for what reason? How does any of this make any political sense? And it doesn't. And that's why you're seeing, I think, these dramatic changes, like we were saying, is people feel it. We know there's something wrong. We know there's something systemically wrong. I think the Epstein files opened that up. There's zero trust in government now, none. From on the right side, the middle or center, and so now I think there's just a really big question, which is who's driving the car and where are we going? Besides over the cliff, and nobody has an answer to that.
No, nobody knows, folks. They're so bad. They're so incompetent. They can't even be consistent on messaging. The Trump administration says it's a war. Mark Wayne Mullen says it's a conflict. Then they say, "Oh yeah, it's a conflict." Then Lindsey Graham says, what's going to happen afterwards?" He goes, "I don't know. That's not our problem." But then Donald Trump says, "Iranians, it's up to you to do regime change." Now the White House came out today with a statement. There's nothing about regime change. But then later, now they're asking the Kurds, whom we've betrayed forever, to basically fight against the Iranians. Don't worry, we have your back, Kurds. No plan for an exit strategy for our tourists, for our American ambassadors. All the bases are being bombed. Cyprus got bombed. No understanding of how Sunnis and Shias will relate to this moment, where there's Shias in Pakistan. I called it, I'm Pakistani. I'm like, there's a lot of Shias all around the world. They see the Ayatollah as a supreme leader. It's Ramadan. If you kill them, they're going to see you killing, essentially, and this is an exaggeration, but just for the sake of explanation, their Pope. What happened? They attacked the U.S. consulate in Karachi. What happened today? The friggin' U.S. consulate in Dubai is burning. They have no plan to save Americans. Oh yeah, Strait of Hormuz being choked. What's going to happen? Oil prices are going up. What a cluster F in real time. And this is something where Kurt, you and me and Mike, every time in my lifetime, every administration bombs brown people. And whenever it bombs brown people or Muslims, you see there's always been approval, 70, 80, 60, 90. This is the first time, Kurt, I've ever seen from the get, he's underwater.
Yeah. It's interesting that when we look at most of our lived lives, my wife made this point that there's been an offensive, a war of some kind with the Middle East almost every decade of our lived existence. I mean, it's pretty extraordinary when you think about it that way. This is getting ridiculous. I remember, well, let's remember, so are you, when Republicans lost their shit over the lack of security and a compound in Libya called Benghazi, held hearing after hearing, select committee about embassy security. That's how people remember. It didn't start up with Hillary Clinton's doing. It started with embassy security and why American personnel do not have the assets to stay protected and done. Today, Donald Trump basically told embassies all over the Middle East, "You're on your own. We have no plan to get you out of there. We have no assets to help you get out safely. Figure it out." Which is very much in tune with this president, who told the families of school shootings, "Get over it." Whose attitude about the loss of military life through this war, and that's what it is. It's a war. Well, there's going to be more. That's just part of it. That's how it works. From a guy who draft dodged and couldn't be bothered to serve as well because of his bone stories. It is not surprising that this is wildly unpopular when you look at the promises made by Trump, by J.D. Vance, to not launch war, specifically in the Middle East. They campaigned on ending all the war to our plan. They specifically said that they would not engage in military conflict in the Middle East. And they are America first, right? Like, that was the whole point, was to focus on this country and not deal with Venezuela or Greenland or Iran or remaking the Middle East and putting a Trump tower on the Gaza Strip or these other nonsensical fantasies that just supposedly was divided over. And the American people are watching their situation get worse, their cost of living go up, their economic opportunity goes down. Harder to raise a family, harder to get your kids child share, harder to pay for health care. And they're watching this guy, this buffoon, put his name on the Kennedy Center, remodel the White House, and spend countless resources with these misadventures all over the middle. But there's just one, there was a read the room moment. We're in it right now. And it was going to have it's from now until
You're going in and out, Kurt. You're really good. We got in right towards the end, but it's okay, folks. Thank you to Kurt. Thank you to Mike for joining late night. For those who joined us late, I'm talking to Mike Madrid and Kurt Bardella. We're reviewing all the races. It seems like latest update, Vote Hub is projecting Valerie Foushee to win that North Carolina 4th congressional district primary. If she does win it, it's by less than a percentage point. This is going to roil the Democratic Party, folks. I'm telling you, this is going to be a Pyrrhic victory because Foushee, going back to a point Mike made, it ain't just black and white anymore. You have to contend with Latinos. You have to contend with independents. You have to contend with Asian Americans. It isn't just like, oh, Valerie Foushee, she's a black woman. You have to run against her. People are like, we don't care. She's an establishment candidate. We want a progressive. Nida Alam ran a really pretty inspiring race at the last second. Hakeem Jeffries pumps hidden AIPAC money into Foushee's race. If she wins and they're declaring her a winner, less than a percentage point. Jasmine Crockett, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people, a lot of black voters in particular, minority people.
Wash, I don't want to interrupt you, but let me just tell you, I think, judging by what's going on, I think Tallarico's probably going to come out soon. So I should probably bounce really loud.
No, well, we're going to say bye. I was just wrapping up. Kurt, shamelessly promote yourself.
Hey, everyone, thanks for watching. I'm also at the Watchdog Report on Substack, so please go there to support, subscribe. If you feel like throwing me a couple bucks to become a paid subscriber, that's awesome too. You won't get anything for it, because everything's free. But that makes a big difference for folks like me, Mike, and Ross.
Thanks, man. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk tomorrow.
Here's from Austin.
Mike, I'll give you the final word, but I see this as being very contentious. This is not nice and clean. Crockett, Tallarico, Nida Alam, Valerie Foushee, especially what's happening in the Republicans with Crenshaw being out. Paxton versus Cornyn is going to be nasty. Talk to us about how we're going to see these fissures play out.
Just understand that change always brings about this type of pain. You can't progress, you can't move without these types of growth pains. A lot of people believe, this MAGA movement believes that this is the death of America, that something is dying. I choose to believe that something is being born. These are birth pangs. There's something new emerging, and it's never going to be easy, but now is the time to demonstrate courage. It's the time to demonstrate leadership. It's time to move on offense. Like you said, there was nobody in my lifetime, us older guys, ever believed that Israel would be below Palestine in the minds of the American public.
Nope,
that has dramatically changed. You are seeing power structures crumbling. You are seeing political systems fall. And that isn't a time to be scared. It's a time to be courageous. It's a time to say, now we can actually create a better place, a better world, a better moment. So be mindful that every data point that you're seeing, as scary as it is, have courage, be worthy of the moment, drive forward, build a better society, a better world. Fight for that arc of progress, fight for justice, fight for working class people, fight for the poor, fight for the least among us. And when you do that and let that guide you, the rest of it begins to take its place. But don't be afraid of evil falling. Don't hold on to evil systems just because it's the only system you've ever known. So that would be my voice of counsel. And today is, I think, a watershed moment. I really think it's a very, very big moment in democratic politics, in national politics, in global politics.
Folks, change is coming. It's going to make a lot of people nervous. Keep your eyes wide open. We've been telling you. We're onto some stuff. Our batting average has actually been pretty... Mike, if I do say so, because we get very little wins in the hellscape that we have chosen to create with our lives. We have had some we told you so moments in the last couple of months.
Yeah, and I just we have, and like I said, I've given you your flowers a lot. Sometimes you've said stuff, and I was like, "Waj, I'm not sure that that's right." You're seeing you're much more bold than I'm willing to go, and you've been right every time. And I acknowledge it as a way of encouraging it, and frankly, of encouraging me to be like going. The data is saying bigger things than you, and you know that, Mike. Just because you haven't seen it in 35, 40 years doesn't mean it's not happening. You're inspiring me to see bigger. So thank you for doing that. This
No,
is that
vice
moment.
versa. And you've been on this for 3 decades. Mike looks at the data, he makes educated decisions. But what we're seeing with independent voters, young voters, Latino voters, folks, we haven't seen that. I mean, the
Never.
independent. We'll end on this. I mean, we're ending in a minute. I know, but independence. The fact that he's 22 to 26 with independence, unheard
I've
of.
never seen that before. Never seen it before.
You got Cubans in Miami voting for a Democrat. Someone might as that's like saying hell has frozen over. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, folks, it's a brave new world, and sooner the corporate America, sooner the mainstream, sooner the establishment, sooner Democrats and Republicans realize that and harness it. That's what will. That's people are sick and tired of the institutions. They're sick and tired of it. You're going to see a lot of pissed off people tomorrow. I'm telling you, this ain't ending, especially with Jasmine Crockett and Talarico, Nida Alum and Fushi, the Republicans, Cornyn and Paxson. Hold on to your butts. Mike, shamelessly promote yourself.
Yeah, follow me if you like what you hear, polling data. If you get really nerdy, granular data, sometimes it might be a little bit boring for some people, but I write at my Substack is called The Great Transformation. Any subscriptions that help kind of pay for some of that polling that I can provide for you, provide that insight, I would appreciate it. Otherwise, thanks, Wash, for giving me a platform. I always love talking to you, brother.
No, thanks everyone for joining. It's late. 1,300 people. We're going to have this up on my Substack, Kurt's Substack, and Mike's Substack. We break down every single primary race and what it means. By the time we're finished, we pretty much have a good angle of who's won everything. If you find this helpful, please go subscribe to Mike's Substack. Give him some money. Subscribe to Kurt's Substack and subscribe to Left Hook. There's no paywalls here, but we have children to feed and cats. So if you can give a few bucks, please do. If not, that's okay. Thank you all. Take care. Be kind. And please, oh, please don't be a fascist. Take care, Mike.
Have a good night, brother.
It doesn't want to end.